Motivation isn't something you have. Motivation is something that you get from achieving, from feeling good about achieving the small victories. Motivation is not required to get started on something. It is not a prerequisite. Real motivation comes after you start. How many times do you find yourself getting motivated by watching an inspirational video or by reading some inspirational quote? And how long does that feeling stay with you? Probably not long enough. Motivation of that kind is like a sugar rush. It feels good, but is impossible to maintain. And that's what we'll talk about in this video. How to create long-lasting motivation. What's up, friends? Welcome to the channel. My name is Rahul, and in this video, we'll talk about how to create long-lasting motivation that takes you to the finish line. And this is inspired from the book that I came across last year called The Motivation Myth. It's an amazing book. I do recommend you guys to read it. When you have zero motivation to do something, how do you get started on it? Starting is not as hard as you would think. The first thing to do is write down the things that are preventing you from starting something. Make a list and see what you can do to eliminate those things. If we don't address our weaknesses, or if we hide them, we'll always be weak at those things. Writing down, addressing them would be a good way to get them out of the way or see how we can fix them. There are a few other techniques that you can follow to get started, like a 5 minutes technique or the famous Pomodoro technique. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that, but if you're not, let me know and I can talk about that in a separate video. The another thing that you could do is to replace I want to with in your sentence with I have to. For example, if you want to go to gym, don't say I want to go to gym, say I have to go to gym. It's such a small thing, but it can make a big difference in your mindset. The other thing that can get you help started on something is a willpower, and we'll talk about how to make your willpower stronger later in the video. Now, one crucial reason why you would want to stay motivated for anything is to achieve something, is to achieve a goal. And the way the book talks about a goal is you set a goal, you create a process for it, and then you forget about the goal and enjoy the process trying to reach that goal. I don't totally agree with that. What I understand from that point is not to be obsessed over your goal. If you get obsessed over your goal, it will make it harder to enjoy the small victories. You'll keep comparing yourself with the end result, and that will just tell you how far you are from the actual goal. Take hiking, for example. If you keep thinking about your destination, or a waterfall in my case, you probably won't enjoy the hike as much as you would if you don't keep thinking about the final goal in this case. You also get a slice of happiness when you achieve a goal, but the real source of consistent and lasting happiness comes from a process. So can we develop a process that we enjoy? Let's talk about that in the next section. Knowing you have done what you were set out to do that day will give you that one aha moment, but it won't keep you motivated for a longer time. You want to be able to repeat that. And in order to do that, you want to create some sort of process that can make it happen. How do we create successful process? There are a few steps that I'll talk about that you can take to develop a process that will help you achieve your goal. And meanwhile, you can also enjoy the process at the same time while doing it. So the first thing that you want to do in order to develop a process is set a goal. This goal will help you develop a trajectory for your journey. And I'll take my learning guitar as an example for the rest of the steps below. The second thing you want to do is choose a reasonably promising routine. What you want to do is you want to find a time slot during your day or night, whatever works for you, that can easily fit in your routine. So you don't have to push through that initial inertia to get going. I would actually prefer to practice my guitar in the morning, but I don't think my neighbors would appreciate it that much. So instead, I practiced it in the evening right after work. And now that I'm working from home, it's easy to do so. The third thing is make it specific. You want to make the process as automatic as possible. So you have to set the days. These are the days I'm going to be working on these things. What you're going to do and how you will be doing it. For me, for learning guitar, what I do is I practice it every other day. I set aside 20 to 25 minutes. And what I do is I practice my old chords and learn a new one each day. And then I tweak this process as I go. A good process precisely tells you what you need to accomplish along the way. And this way, you know what to do and if you have accomplished what you needed to. The fourth thing is reworking your schedule. When something is not working out, it's really easy to give up. But rather than giving up, make changes to your schedule. See what's not working out. You can change how you do things. You don't have to be rigid about it. But don't make changes to your schedule just because you're lazy or bored. Make changes because those changes actually increase your likelihood of ultimate success. And at times, I have moved my guitar lessons from 5:30 in the evening to 2 o'clock when I feel a little bit sleepy. Now, let's talk about willpower a little bit. When it comes to getting started, willpower is absolutely crucial. And willpower is just like a muscle, it can be trained to get stronger. And again, there are a few steps that you can follow to make it stronger. The first one is eliminating the choices. Choices are the enemies of willpower. The more choices we have to make during a day, the harder each one gets on our brain, and the more our brain starts to look for shortcut. Let's say you want to drink more water now and avoid drinking soda. So what you need to do is put the soda away somewhere far out of your reach, put more water bottles on your desk, so that way the only choice you have in this case is the water, and that's what you'll end up drinking, hopefully. The second one is make decisions tonight so you won't have to make them tomorrow morning. Sometimes it's easier to decide something when the choice is not right in front of you. So you won't have to exercise that willpower in the morning. So if you can pick a decision that can be made tonight, that will save you some willpower tomorrow morning. For example, choosing what to wear or planning your day. I recently started doing this. I used to plan my day early morning, but recently I started planning it the night before. That saves some time in the morning to go to gym or do a run. I'll let you guys know how that goes. The third thing is removing temptation. If you are like me, I'm addicted to my phone, and I recently started trying on a few new techniques to avoid the temptation reaching out to my phone every time. So there are a few apps in my phone which I just pick up my phone and go to them by default. What I did is I installed an app called Focus Me, and that puts like a lock on those certain apps for a certain period of time. And if my brain by default goes to those apps, it will just kick me out, and that way I just come to that realization that I don't want to use this app anymore. The second thing I do is, if I'm really trying to focus on something, on a task, I put my phone away out of reach, and this is similar to what we did in the first example, like for the soda and the water analogy. And all these techniques should help you build your willpower over the time, but start small. Don't implement all of this at once. Take baby steps, and eventually it will build up just like a muscle. Now, coming to our last section of the video, I wasn't too sure about including this section, but I thought it was an interesting take on how we decide on things. If you're constantly struggling to make a decision, take a step back and ask yourself this one question: will this help me reach my goal? And I know it contradicts a little bit about what we talked at the beginning of the video, but this is sort of like a last resort that you can use. For example, let's say if you're trying to lose weight, and you're going to a restaurant where you know you will be eating dessert. So ask yourself, like, will this help me lose weight? If the answer is no, you made your choice before the choices were even presented to you. And this way you can remove exercising your motivation or willpower. And obviously, if you went to gym, if you have burned your calories for that day, then the answer would be yes, you could eat that dessert. But at the same time, you also don't want to keep asking this question from yourself all throughout the day. Then you'll suffer for something called decision fatigue. And to avoid this from happening, what you need to do is limit the number of goals that you're working on at a time to 2 to 3. And that does not mean that you're giving up on the other goals. It's just that you're shining a spotlight on the 2 to 3 goals that matter the most at that time.
Let's take a look at the summary before we go. We talked about how motivation is something we get by enjoying small victories. Then we looked at how we can get started on a task that we have zero motivation to do. Then we talked about goals and how we don't want to keep thinking about them once they're set. We looked at different steps to develop a process that brings us closer to our goal. We saw ways to make your willpower stronger. And lastly, we looked at how asking one particular question can provide a lot of answers.
Note, guys, is don't wait for the motivation to come to you. Follow your process, follow your plan, and you'll find the motivation you need. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and in order to stay up to date with my latest video, you can click over there and don't forget to subscribe over here. Thank you for watching.